Hello, hello. Going live. Miriam's here on the floor. It's very exciting in our second paradigm office. I'm going to bring through a live channeled message from B. I have no idea what's going to come through. I wish I did, but I don't. So I'm just going to close my eyes and transmit. So I'll need a second to go in. So while I go in, feel free to take a few moments, breathe, settle in, see what's here for you. And the next voice you hear will be B's. Thanks for tuning in. Hello. It is a pleasure as always to be here. Hello, Miriam. Good to see you again. We just brought through some videos for the club, for intuitive truthers. But we wanted to come on to be able to speak more publicly. And Miriam nudged David to do this live, so that's very exciting. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to take a moment to settle in, take a few deep breaths. Call in your oversoul. Ask to be disconnected from the collective. And call in your truest soul essence. Breathe. Now more than ever, there is a significant amount of noise on all social media platforms. Not just the typical noise of all of the things you need to do in order to be okay and be happy, but legitimate concerns of top-down control, legitimate concerns of this planet going in a direction that is no longer suitable for life, legitimate concerns about health, and what every individual can do to take care of their own health during this terrible and confusing time. But more than anything in all of this noise, the absolute most important thing to be able to settle into is your own individual truth. So even before any of the health scares, even before any of the fears of tyrannical futures, there was still an element of push back on who you are in this world. There was still an element of here are all the things you need to do in order to be okay. Here's the amount of money you have to make in order to be okay. Here's the specific strategies you have to follow in order to be okay. If you're not doing this, you're not smart, you're not savvy, you're not in the cool kids club. You must be doing something wrong. But now, more than ever, this message is amplified. It seems as though everywhere you look, there are more and more examples of things that you need to be doing in order to be okay, need to be taken into consideration in order to be okay. This is absolutely the furthest from the truth. What many are already beginning to realize about intuition as a decision-making force, not just as a little fun side hobby. What many individuals are realizing about their intuition is it gives them access to a deeply precise stream of information that's relevant specifically for them as an individual. that through their own intuitive connection, they have the ability to download the exact thing that is there for them in that moment. Now, from our perspective, looking in on what's happening on planet Earth, there is a distinct transition from what we call the first to the second paradigm. We could also call this a transition from dark to light. But despite all the misconceptions around the words dark and light, what they mean, what they look like, how they present themselves, the truth of what this transition is on your planet right now has nothing to do with many of the mainstream spiritual practices out there, or positivity in your mind, or control over your emotions, and has everything to do with your capacity to be able to trust yourself and your intuition. Now, doing that in this modern age, in this time, requires a great degree of inner solidity. There is a significant amount of trust in yourself that's required now, more than there ever has been in human history, to be able to trust yourself fully and to make decisions on, from our perspective, what is the most powerful decision-making force in existence, your intuition. There is a recognition that this whisper that comes through you internally is actually divinity itself. It is your direct line into God. It is your direct line into the ideal being orchestrated and delivered to every single individuated soul in existence, including here on earth. Every single individual has the ideal being delivered to them through that inner whisper in every single moment, and yet the large, overwhelming majority of individuals on this planet want nothing to do with it and would rather do something else. Now, this something else is what we call the first paradigm. Really, everything else other than the ideal being delivered to you in every single moment. And what this means is that this new operating system coming online, this opportunity here for your planet, what's happening here on your planet, this transition, is really a choice of whether or not to tune in and listen to this inner whisper, to listen to the voice of God, all of the wisdom and power of divinity coming through your own spiritual access that everyone has. It's whether to listen to the ideal through divinity or to do something else. Now, there are a wide variety of reasons to do something else. You can be completely convinced that everything is going to fall apart unless you do something else than what you're already feeling. This perhaps is a little bit more justifiable. You could call this unconsciousness. It seems as though there's no way to trust yourself, to do the thing that you already know that's here. But then there are very conscious forms of doing something else. I know that this is what is here for me. And maybe I even have some recognition that this is where light and divinity wishes me to go, but I wish to do something else because I see an opportunity for a little bit more profit over there, for a little better outcome for me than what's being delivered to me as the ideal, which always shows up in a win-win. So this is why we say the first paradigm versus the second paradigm, because there's nuance here, and it has nothing to do with what most individuals think of when they think of dark and light. Light is listening to the ideal coming through you in every moment. Darkness is every single thing else. So now more than ever, when you're in a time of deep informational overload with dozens of things that you need to be cautious of at every twist and turn of your life, on top of all of the things that humanity is already deeply terrified of, running out of money, being alone, being completely ostracized, on top of those core biological mechanisms that have been manipulated for a very long time here, there's now an entirely new narrative that continues to bake on obligations that require you to do something else other than what you're already getting. Now more than ever, as a spiritual individual, the most important thing you could possibly be doing is to tune in to who and what you really are and to trust this inner knowing over everything else, regardless of the consequences socially and regardless of the deep internal fears that seem as though you're going to be leading into a certain doom. Seem as though everything's going to fall apart if you trust yourself. This is the furthest from the truth, the only truth that's truly here right now. The only decision that's truly being made by humanity right now is, will I listen to the internal whisper of divinity delivering me the ideal in every single moment of my existence, or will I choose to do something else out of a misunderstanding or arrogance that I can do better than the full power of divinity being delivered to me in every single moment? Now, it's understandable to not see this. It's understandable that most of humanity does not see this clearly, that divinity is communicating with them constantly through intuition, that it's not just a spiritual hobby or something that you can read in a self-help manual, that there's genuinely something of deep divine substance through your own intuitive channels, through your own inner knowing. But once you do see it, the world only gets clearer and clearer. And it only becomes more obvious how your society is disconnecting individuals from divinity, how this trajectory leads into a godless, soulless future run by artificial intelligence with a wide opening for any sort of tyranny to take hold. Because every aspect of your civilization is built on the assumption that you have to do something else, that you have to be something else, that you have to figure out what to do, that you have to figure out who else to be, who else to listen to find the experts that know better than you. Your entire life you have been trained to do everything other than to look inside and trust yourself. This is the battle between light and dark that's happening here on this planet right now. It has nothing to do with spells and potions. It has nothing to do with even dark satanic ritual. It has everything to do with the disconnection from your own internal knowing. When you know that, you are solid in it. When you know that, you prioritize that inner knowing. And you realize that you do have control over what happens here on this planet by voting for light here through your own beingness. That it has nothing to do with even the things that you're speaking out against, even the things that you wish to see not happen here. That it has nothing to do with preventing these terrible circumstances. The battle is happening on an individual, internal level everywhere. And your vote for light by trusting your own intuition matters here. And your vote for light and trusting your intuition ripples because it's a far more optimal operating system. It simply works better. And when you do something and embody something that works better, that spreads like a virus. It is viral. Many, many, many individuals see that and start to wonder what you did in order to be so settled into peace with such a confidence in who you are and walking in the ideal and having your life come together spectacularly through time. And the only thing that you really did was to trust yourself, to trust the ideal, to walk within light, to listen to the instructions from divinity for how to step into the ideal within your very own unique individual circumstances. There's a deep level of precision being delivered to every single person on this planet, even now. And there are no circumstances here, no terrible circumstances here that are absolutely inevitable, that need to be avoided in any other way than through accessing your own internal knowing. Divinity will lead all those who listen to the exact things they need to learn, understand, speak out about, take action against or for. But all of that has to come through the intuition, or the thing that is being acted on is something else. It is a vote for darkness. This seems as though it's a battle between left and right, or a battle between genders or sexes or races. This seems as though it's very practical in nature, that there's something you can put your finger on and say, here's the divide. It's the maskers versus the anti-maskers. It's those who are being vaccinated versus those who are not being vaccinated. It's those on this side of the political aisle versus those on the other. But the only true divide here and in all of existence is whether or not you as an individual listen to the messages that are being delivered to you from the larger orchestration of divinity with deep precision in every single moment, or whether or not, for a wide variety of reasons, you choose to do something else. This is why we, David and Miriam, will continue to speak out against many forms of spirituality that have you tune out from yourself and try to manipulate your biology, manipulate your thoughts and emotions in order to feel better. This is why we'll continue to speak out about manipulative marketing that encourages other people to do things that they wouldn't get, that they aren't already getting through their own intuitive channels, to manipulate biology and emotion to make more sales. All of this is something else other than the ideal being delivered in every single moment. The only way to vote for light, the only way to be a part of the cutting edge, driving forward this transition from the first into the second paradigm, is to trust this inner knowing. Nothing else is light, regardless of what it looks like. Nothing else will be beneficial for this planet, regardless of what it looks like. There's a verse in your Bible that essentially says man cannot rule himself. This is that idea. Man does not need to rule himself through his own cognition and logic, trying to manipulate the scenarios that are here. All that leads to ideal comes through that own personal connection to all of divinity, because there is no force in existence. There's no one smart enough. There is no supercomputer powerful enough to top the level of precision and access to truth and pure data of what's happening truthfully than divinity. Divinity has the largest access to everything because it is everything. Divinity has the largest access to truth. Divinity has the largest access to the ideal. And there's an aspect of divinity, we call it the oversoul orchestration. These units of consciousness who their entire job in existence is to deliver the ideal and to help orchestrate circumstances so that they are ideal and in alignment with all of existence. This is what each of you already have access to through your own intuition. That is light. Everything else that's not coming through your own internal knowing, that's not coming through your own intuition, is darkness, regardless of what rationalization or justification it may have. When you know this, you have the opportunity to play for the winning team, because light's inevitable win here is coming. What is unideal will not stand. The question is not if your planet will transition from a first into a second paradigm collective. The question is when, and whether or not you will be driving it. Those who are deeply tuning into their own intuitive knowing here and now are playing one of the most potent, powerful, and unique opportunities roles within all of existence. They are driving forward a collective into light. Simply by being in their light, they are rippling that essence out to many, many more souls than in essentially any other reality, civilization, anywhere. This moment now of this transition that's already happening, of light winning here, of intuition coming online as the ideal decision-making force. This is one of the most unique and rewarding opportunities within all of divinity right now. That's why there's so much intelligence here watching and helping. And each of you who already have access to this intuition, who can already differentiate your fears from your inner knowing, who's spent time developing, honing your access, your clarity to that inner knowing, have the opportunity to drive this evolution, biological evolution, tangibly forward for humanity. This is light coming online. The only thing that's here is to trust yourself and your intuition. Everything else is darkness. When you remember that, not only do you play for the winning team, but you also are impenetrable to anyone or anything who tries to convince you to do something else. You only take orders from divinity. You only take orders from your truest soul essence, from God itself, and nothing else can stand. That is what the darkness is most afraid of here. That is what will topple everything else here. And that is what is already and will continue to transition your collective from a dark-based paradigm into a light-based paradigm, tethered to the ideal in every single moment, following the instructions from God for how to be a piece of the ideal coming into physicality here and now. So please, for those of you who are already listening to that inner whisper, keep going and know that what you're doing is deeply substantial. And for those of you who still question this inner knowing and still do something else, please ponder the question, why? What reason is there? Every timeline, from chasing material, emotional desires, from trying to ensure a level of safety that already exists here, ends in hollow disappointment. The only thing that truly brings deep personal fulfillment is plugging into the ideal. It is not that you are becoming a servant to divinity. It is that you are recognizing the deep power and wisdom of this entire body that you were a piece of, and you are recognizing that it's simply a better decision-making tool, and that you win and everyone else wins when you follow the ideal that's already coming through. It is the structure of divinity. It is how the process of life is meant to work. Everything else is a trick. Everything else is darkness, regardless of how convincing it may look. So keep going. Keep trusting yourself. Keep honing this internal knowing. Keep listening to that internal whisper, and welcome home. So much love to you, and I'll speak to you at a later time. Bye for now. All right, that was good. All right, y'all, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to go sleep. Just kidding. Probably going to shower, drink some more coffee. Change the title to all of this, and thanks for tuning in. If you love this, feel free to drop a comment, drop a like, and share it with your friends. And if you want more of this, we just shot more videos for the club today, so go to thesecondparadigm.com and you'll see a little button that says join the club, and you can come join us for $2.99 a month up through, we have multiple tiers. But yeah, so much love to you. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.